Okay, no problem. All right, but before you read Salim, let's first start with the achievement of the Muslim civilization. We have already spoken about the achievement of the Muslim civilization. Can you name some of the achievements? Ahmad, Salim, Ibrahim. Can you name some of the achievement of the Muslim civilization?
They made a Muslim man made the numbers and the number zero as well.
The numerals, okay.
Yes.
What else?
They spread a lot of their ideas around the world that helped cultures.
All right, what else?
They built trading network across Muslim lands.
Nice, trading roads around the Muslim land or the Muslim empire, which stretched from the Indus Valley River until Spain. Nice, Ahmad.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I asked, like, why now?
So most importantly, of course, the Muslim empire stretched from the Indus Valley River in India until Spain, of course, took Persia and the Arabian Peninsula and all of northern Africa and parts of Spain and here in Constantinople also. So all of that was under the Muslim civilization, and consequently, you are speaking about a very, very diverse people, very, very strange people. They are very diverse. They don't have the same culture or the same background or the same ideology or even the same thoughts and ideas. But one civilization gathered and connected all of these people together. So, what we'll have as a result? As a result, I'll have what people in Egypt are doing and contributing in science. People in Libya will have people in Algeria, Saudi Arabia, in Iran, in India, in Spain. So all this part of the Arabian countries beside the Muslim empire will have the same feature. So if someone from any other country, okay, along the Muslim empire discovered something or invented something, so the rest of the Muslim people will learn about that. And most importantly also, we have spoken about equality among people. All people are equal and the perspective of the Islamic law. So we have spoken first about economics and social changes. So we have spoken about the diffusion of learning and how that our Prophet, peace be upon him, urged people to learn, and that the Muslim people, they were very, very excellent in learning and developing other sciences. Later, we have spoken about the trade and the Muslim world because the Muslim world stretched for a very, very huge area. Consequently, trade started to include all parts of this huge empire. Not only this, but later they started also to trade with other civilizations like the Chinese civilization via the Silk Road. And also they reached Europe and started trading there. And always and forever, trade will be one of the most important reasons for introducing your own culture and also knowing other people's culture. So we'll start today with the spreading of products and also ideas. Okay, Salim, you may read. Salim?
Yes, teacher.
Yeah, spreading of products and also ideas.
All right. Trade spread products, technologies, knowledge, and culture. Muslim merchants introduced an Indian number system to Europe, where they became known as Hindu Arabic numerals or Arabic numerals. Traders also carried sugar from India and papermaking from China, introducing Islam to many new regions. As more people converted to Islam and learned Arabic, the common language and religion helped the global exchange grow and thrive.
So to begin with, we will know that the people from the Islamic world started to trade with India. And in the Islamic Empire, they had their own numerals, which were of course invented by Al-Khwarizmi, one of the mathematician. He's one of the best mathematicians over the course of history. So while trading with India, they introduced their numbers to the Indian people, and vice versa. The Indian people also introduced their numbers to the Muslim people. So we adapted their numbers, and they adapted ours. Not only this, but also we started trading with India, China, and we introduced Islam to many other regions, and that's a very, very important point. So while the Muslims were trading with other civilizations, they did not just trade in ideas or thoughts or even merchandise, but they also took Islam with them, and they started to spread Islam over these regions. Next paragraph. Extensive trade.
Extensive trade and a money economy led Muslims to pioneer new business practices. They created partnerships, bought and sold on credit, formed banks to change currency, and invented the ancestors of today's bank checks. In fact, the English word check comes from the Arabic word sack. Bankers developed a sophisticated system of accounting. They opened branch banks in all major cities so that a check in cashed in Cairo. These economic ideas eventually spread
To Europe, where they influenced the rise of modern economic system. So, simply we're speaking also about, come on, just imagine with me. Right now, we're speaking about an empire that is stretched from India until Spain. All of that part in front of you. So, right now, let's imagine that I'm living in Morocco and you are coming from Saudi Arabia to give me some of your own products, something that you're selling, camels, for example. So you came all of that distance. But once you came, unfortunately, I didn't have any money at that time. All the money I had, I bought something else. And you came all of that way only to sell me your products. So what can I do? I can write you a check, okay? And this check in original Arabic word is called sak, okay, like a treatment or an agreement, and both parties must sign on it. And not only this, but we also contributed in making the earliest forms of banks. Like I can give you the check here in Morocco, and you can go back to Egypt and have your money by that check. Okay, so that was the origin of the bank system. But of course, it's totally different from today's. It was only made so that every party can have and can be sure that his right will reach him eventually. So they started to introduce the early part of the check or the sak in Arabic, and also they made like places or banks for changing currency. So the currency used in the Muslim Empire was not the same used in China or in Europe, etc. Also, the bankers they developed a sophisticated system of accounting. They also opened branches or branch bank in the major city, so that if you are coming from Damascus to Baghdad, so you can have your money in that place from Damascus to Baghdad, or in Cairo, or Alexandria, or in Morocco, Tunisia. So all of that, they started to open these branches, so that people can travel safely on the road without carrying any money. So a check written in Baghdad, for example, might be cashed in Cairo. These economic ideas eventually spread to Europe, where they influenced the rise of modern economic system, which we have today. What about the high demand for the manufactured goods? So why would I ask for more goods? Ibrahim, for example. Ibrahim.
Yes.
So you are a merchant.
Okay.
You are from the Muslim world, and I am in China. Okay. and you brought me some good. Why would I ask you for more?
Because you would trust me. Like
Right?
the first time I would give you what you need, and you will give me what I need. So I will trust you as a customer, and you will trust me as a merchant or as a trader.
Okay, that's great. So,
And
number
keep
one,
pass for me.
great. Number two,
I have good deals.
you have good deals. Okay, so you
Yeah.
can give me a very good deal that makes me win or profit a lot. Great. What else? Come on, guys. Why
Quality.
would you ask someone quality?
Okay. Yeah,
Well, the
that's
quality of
good.
your goods. If the quality of your goods is poor one, so I will not ask you for more. Number two, or the number four for you is the high demand, right? My people, now you give me a product, any product, okay, and I trusted you, and you are giving me a good deal, and the quality of your product is very good. So I started to set my or your good out of the market, and the people started to ask for your goods. So I'll just come and ask you for more goods, and especially your merchandise. Okay, so your merchandise, your goods, I'll just go and ask you for more simply because I can trust you. You give me a very good deal. Beside all of this, you also have a good quality of your merchandise. And Mr. Late always late. What can you say? So, Brahim, you can start.
High demand for manufactured goods. Muslims artists produced a wealth of fine goods. The steel saws from Damascus, leather goods from Cordoba, cotton textiles from Egypt, and carpets from Persia were highly valued. Workshops also out turned out fine glassware, furniture, and tapestries.
Chemistry. Okay, so simply we're speaking about that some major cities in the Muslim Empire they excelled in making some specific products. Like back in that era, okay, the steel swords from Damascus were the best swords in the world. So if you are holding one of the Damascus swords, so that's awesome. Yeah, it was like the Japanese sword, katana. Okay, so the steel from Damascus was the best steel back then. So people started asking for that. Also, we have the leather from Cordoba, the cotton from Egypt, the carpets from Persia, because those people excelled in making their products. Consequently, people started to ask for more, and that explained the high demand for the manufactured goods. Next paragraph, Ibrahim.
As in medieval Europe, handcraft manufacturing in Muslim cities was typically organized by guilds. The heads of the guilds, chosen by their members, often had the authority to regulate prices, weights, and measures, methods of production, and the quality of the product. Most labor was done by wage workers.
All right. So, what about the medieval Europe? What is the meaning of medieval Europe, by the way? If I ask you what is the
Like,
meaning of medieval Europe,
Medieval Europe.
yes.
It's in a time like before really the
like
before
in
the
the
land started
Okay.
it's
So
like
the
Middle
medieval
happening,
Europe,
Ages.
yes.
steampunk
Middle
or
Middle
Ages.
what? The Middle
Middle
Age.
Ages.
just
Yes.
medieval,
Medieval
like
means
swords
middle.
and bows.
Okay. Medieval means Middle Ages. So in the Middle Ages of Europe, of course, Europe was like very bad at that time. They did not have much technology nor advancement, even a system of law. People started killing each other, and they lived in a very bad place. Yet, on the other hand, they had some craftsmen because they need to continue to live. So, they will have some craftsmen in order to conduct their daily today activity. So, the handsmen or the handicraftsmen, they were manufactured in the Muslim city, typically organized by the guilds. What is the meaning of guilds? Guilds like the
It's a
leaders of,
group of people that are hired
yes, meaning
to
that
do
they are
something
the
specific.
leaders. Yeah, for example, I'm a carpenter.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm making beds,
So you
chairs.
make a
Yeah,
carpenter guild, correct?
Yeah, so a carpenter means a carpenter guild is the leader of the carpenters. Like he is the boss of the carpenters. Okay, he is the most skilled man, and he now, of course, not the only one man, but a group of people. So those group of people could now negotiate about the prices and who can enter the profession of making the wooden crafts or not, the carpenters. Okay, I'm a swordsman, for example. I'm a blacksmith. Okay, so each group of people manufacturing some product, they had specific people who were like rulers for them or like leaders for them, and those people they told them about the prices of each thing. Like for example, a sword from Damascus worth 10 dinars, for example. Okay, so the guild says no, this sword must be sold at least by 12 dinars. Or they say no, that's too expensive. It must be sold for 7 dinars. So the guild or the members of the group of people, they were the heads and they chose the member and they also regulate the prices. Okay, so weights also measures the methods of production so that everything will be in its own precision and the quality will be very high so that people can ask for more. And the quality most important of the product, as we have spoken. Most labor, of course, was done by the wage worker, like people working for money. So Muslim trade also by the numbers. Of course, we have the Abbasid proclaimed one kind of money called the dinar, okay, as the standard currency of their empire, from Baghdad to Changhan. Okay, the much traveled Silk Road stretched for approximately 7 grand miles, 7,000 miles, and that was, of course, a lot, and usually was made, of course, on camels. So camels were a main method of transportation for the Muslim trade, and they traded with people over 100 miles in the Muslim world, and also like 7,000 miles over the world. What about agriculture? Do you think that agriculture shall flourish or not? Will it flourish or not?
Where?
In the Muslim world, about that era we are speaking about.
Yes,
Yes,
Why would
of
it flourish?
course.
because of the large amount of land they have,
So they had large amount of land, yes. What else?
and
So having lots of land means there are lots of areas that are good for farming.
Well, not necessarily actually. Saudi Arabia is very,
yeah,
very big, but there are very few places where we can farm. It's about
Yeah,
There
but
are like places in
they were
Saudi
big,
Arabia you
big.
can
it's
farm.
about the soil and the
yes.
rivers
If there is a river, so
that there is
consequently
life.
there is gonna be agriculture.
There
Like
is
the River
water,
Nile.
there is life.
Um,
So
what was
the
the
Muslim
question again,
people,
teacher?
why would agriculture flourish at that era?
Because of rivers.
Because of
Because
rivers,
of the
okay. What else?
because
Apart from rivers and land, why would it flourish?
Harvested.
because nature
Nature of what?
of
Because
Rain.
they needed it.
Yes, they needed it. For what?
Eating and
Eating,
producing.
for one, okay, but since the
To
God
live,
came,
they
they
needing
have
it to
used
live.
Trade,
agriculture.
to
Yes,
sheep,
because
to
what?
everything.
Yes,
For
To
trades.
trade,
what
yes.
trade? Yeah, what else?
That's what I
You were speaking about an era of
surpluses
that
to
stretched for
hold up the
7,000
cities.
miles. So simply, we had the land, we had the water, and most importantly, we needed those crops in order to manufacture them, to change them into goods and merchandise that we can trade with other civilizations. We have just spoken about the cotton from Egypt, the leather from uh, sorry, the leather from Cordoba, the swords from Damascus, the carpets from Persia. Of course, most of the merchandise and goods that the Muslim people started to trade with other civilization, they were manufactured one. So they needed to have a very advanced agriculture so that they can keep with the demand for manufactured goods or even the raw materials for manufactured the goods. So we found out that because now we need agriculture to develop and to adapt to the new circumstances, then we will find out that the Muslim people started to make projects, they started to dig canals, and started to make everything possible so that the agriculture can flourish. So, Yusuf, I believe you didn't read.
Yes, and I shall read now.
Yep.
Agriculture flourishes. Outside the cities, agriculture flourished across a wide variety of climates and landforms. Both Umayyad and Abbasid rulers took steps to preserve and extend agricultural land. Small farming communities in the desert areas faced a constant scarcity of water. To improve farm output, the Abbasids organized massive irrigation projects and drained swamplands between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. In addition to other crops raised for food, farmers cultivated sugarcane, cotton, medicine herbs, and flowers that were sold in far-off markets. Farmers began to grow crops that came from different regions. The deserts continued to support nomads who lived by herding. Still, nomads and farmers shared economic ties. Nomads bought dates and grain from settled people, while farming population acquired meat, wool, and hides from the nomads. Pastoral groups also provided pack animals and guides for the caravan trade.
So simply because we needed agriculture and we needed to use the raw materials came out from the agriculture, we found out that both the Umayyad and the Abbasid, they took steps in order to preserve the extent of agricultural land and of course to increase the lands themselves. Consequently, we find small farming communities in desert areas face the constant scarcity of water, lack of water, less of water, unsecure sources of water. So they started to improve the farm output. The Abbasids organized massive irrigation projects were done by the Abbasids. So the Abbasids, they started to organize massive irrigation projects and also drainage swamplands between the Tigris and the Euphrates because of course they were centered in Baghdad, their city, Baghdad of course. So it lies on both the Tigris and the Euphrates River. Consequently, they started to take great importance of making all of that land an agricultural one.
Teacher,
Yep.
report cards are going to be
You wanna be what?
when the report cards are going to be out.
Can you call Mr. Fawad and ask him about this? Because I really have no clue. All right. So the deserts also they continue to support nomads. Of course, like here, for example, in Saudi Arabia and the part of the Arabian Peninsula, because we don't have here a lot of rivers in that area, consequently, we tend to live in the desert and move from one place to another place searching for water and also searching for any well or any oasis where we can settle in it. So the people here, for example, in the whole of Arabian Peninsula, they started to become nomads as always, as even before Islam. They were nomads and they just wanted to raise animals and keep animals, especially camels. Consequently, the people from this area started to provide the rest of the Muslim world back then, or the Muslim Empire, with the needed animals and camels. So the desert continued to support nomads who lived by herding like keeping animal. Still, nomads and farmers also share the economic ties. The nomad bought dates and grain from the settled people around the river who are farmers, while the farmers, of course, acquired the meat and wool from the nomad people. So it was like a partial economy. I give you meat from my animals and you give me the date and the cotton from your groups. to speak about today is the social structure and also slavery. So, what about the social structure in the Muslim world? Can you describe it? Those are some of the Namid people, by the way. So, if I ask you to describe the social structure and the slavery in the Muslim world, Mr. Walid, I didn't hear you today. Now,
I don't think they had slaves in the Muslim world.
okay.
Uh, I, I mean,
Yes, teacher,
I
I
think
What do you think, Nawaf, of the social structure and the slavery of the Muslim people?
I think they would.
I think
Okay.
they were thinker people and smartest people.
So, what about slaves and the social structure?
Yeah, the slaves. I think the black people. Yes, teacher, correct.
It's like racism, but continue, okay?
Like United States, teacher, before 200 year.
Well, we are speaking now about the Muslim civilization. For the American people, we shall speak about that.
They were freeing them,
Yes,
No,
Ahmed.
not free,
Yes,
teacher.
the
Before
slaves,
yes, Ahmed. Nice,
and some of them use them as servants.
nice.
That's it.
teacher, before 100 year, you can buy a person here
Yes.
in the Middle East.
Well, I really don't want to say this, but you can still buy people nowadays.
No, now you can. I mean,
Yeah,
they were
it is not
Where,
forbidden, but
where?
Where can you buy?
Forbidden.
Where,
It's forbidden all over the world. It's forbidden. Yes, you can still do that.
no. I mean, teacher,
where
they
can you do
were
that?
same as
Deeply.
sheep, teacher.
Teach.
They have a market, and you go and you buy someone, and he
Yes,
make
that's a fact.
the farmer and
That's a fact. Okay. So simply at the beginning, no, you must be kidding.
What is that?
Not accessible.
You the deep web. Okay, so simply we're speaking about slavery. Of course, Islam prohibits slavery. It's not allowed in Islam. Okay, but when our Prophet peace be upon him came, all the people in the Arabian Peninsula and literally all around the world, they were having slaves. So I cannot just like this. Ibrahim is afraid. Don't worry. So I cannot just like this stop slavery. So they had that market actually, which you spoke about. This market you can go and buy someone like slave, but with the upcoming years of Islam, our Prophet peace be upon him started to ask the followerships, Sahaba, to stop this action because it's bad. All humans are alike, as our Prophet peace be upon him said. There is no superiority for an Arab over a non-Arab, but with good deeds and religion. Consequently, slavery was prohibited, and we just decreased the action of slavery. So there is, for example, we had all of this part, all of this area was speaking about slavery. So we started to cut down, cut down, cut down, cut down, cut down until finally we stopped the action of slavery itself.
even
Okay.
after Prophet Muhammad, there were a market called Suq al-Nukhasa.
Yes.
They were buying people, and
And
that's
Nakhasa
what
means
I mean, teacher.
yeah, Nakhasa means slavery. Okay, so
They
it
were
didn't
farmer,
stop
teacher.
the
They
one
were
time slavery. So what I need to tell you is that slavery did not just stop one time. Yet it took many years in order to be completely finished. And one last thing about the social structure. Social structure. Of course, at the beginning of Islam, Islam came to say that all people are alike. All people are equal. If I'm born in a very wealthy family, I'm born in a very poor family, I'm an Arab, I'm a non-Arab, whatever you are, eventually you are human and all of us are equal. So there was no social structure in the Arab people. All of them were alike, just like one line. All of the Muslim people. But of course, with the years, they start to take the shape of the society pyramid once again. The leaders in the top, the imams, sheikhs, scholars. Beneath them, the merchant traders and farmers, and eventually, unfortunately, the conquered people or the slaves. Okay, so the same structure all over the civilization we have studied. Okay, Ahmed, can you read?
Okay. Social structure and slavery. Muslim society in the 700s and 800s was more open than that of medieval Christian Europe. Muslims enjoyed a certain degree of social mobility, uh, or the ability to move up in social class.
Yes.
People and improve their social rank through religious, scholarly, or military achievements.
So,
As in, okay.
wait, Ahmed. So, simply we were speaking about how the people had something that is called the social mobility. Social mobility. Mobility came from the word mobile, and mobile means to move, like mobile phone, the phone that you can move with it. Okay, so mobility to move. Of course, we have the pyramid of structure or the structure of the society or the pyramid of the society, as we call it. So simply, people can actually have a mobility between those ranks. So if I'm born as a very, very poor man at the bottom of the society, okay, I can have a profession and become a merchant. Then I'll become super wealthy, and then I can move up in the pyramid, or I can study more about Islam and about religion, and I become a scholar and be appreciated by all the people and move high in the society. And even I can take control of a whole civilization or even a whole dynasty, like the Abbasid dynasty once they came to take control of the Umayyad people. So the Muslim society enjoyed a degree of social mobility that was very, very unlike in that era, because at other societies there was no social mobility, like when we studied Hinduism and Buddhism. Okay, so you are born in a class, you will be always in that class.
But here you could go up.
What?
Here, here you can. Is there
No,
a
here you
social
can.
mobility?
Yes, you can
Oh,
move between
yeah. It
classes.
says a certain degree.
Yep. So you asked Salim, they treated them better than other civilization, right? Yeah, actually, that's a fact. And in order to speak about this, we can take like a lot of time. But really, the slaves were treated very, very well. They were treated as parts of the family. Okay,
Like maids
and
we have
even it
now.
was. It, I'm sorry.
Like the maids we have now.
Yeah,
Like the
like
maids at home.
but even back then, when we were speaking about how to set a servant or a slave free, it was not an easy process. So, for example, you are my servant, for example, okay, or my slave, and now I need to set you free. I don't just say you, okay, you now you are free. No, it's not like this. Because when you were living in my house as my servant or my slave, I provided you with a place to sit, food to eat, and all sorts of things that you need in your life to continue living. But to set you free, I will have to listen. Listen for the Islam. Oh my God. So, if to set a servant free, you will have to give him money in order to start the business, give him a house in order to live in it, and even if he was unmarried, to try to get him married. So it was not easy process. Yeah, just imagine, guys, it was not easy because Islam just if you are living in my house and I don't provide you with all of these things, once I set you free, then you will become a murderer. You will steal. So Islam had put some strict laws and rules so that people can be set free. Okay, and that's in order to do what? Because right now, for example, I have 10 servants or 10 slaves. If I set all of them free, some of them will just end up either dead or stealing, right? But in
Yes,
order to
because
give
you
you all of that
suddenly,
money, in order to give them all of that money, to provide them with profession, to provide them with land to grow, a lot of things in order to just guarantee their future. Now, from my self, okay, from my own perspective, I'm gonna appreciate them as a free man. So I'm free man, and I set out a servant to become free. And after giving him all of this money, so his rank in the society right now will become equal to my own rank. So from my own psychology, from my own perspective, I'm gonna appreciate him, and other men will appreciate him and will never look at him as a slave, but as an equal man. That's why, in order to cut down slavery, it took many, many years for the better of them, and also maybe it will guide them to God, inshallah. Okay, so in summary, it just be a better way to treat. Yeah, exactly. It was a better way to treat them. That's what we were speaking about. And unfortunately, guys, the session is over, and I have another session, so I'm so sorry. So we'll continue next week, inshallah, and enjoy your weekend, guys, and have a nice weekend.
Thank you, teacher.
Yes,
See
thank
you
you,
next
teacher.
week.
Thank you
You
very
too,
Thank
much
guys.
and see you later.
Yeah, you too, all of you. See you. Bye.
Bye.